Thank you, Chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank the organizers for having me here. So after a colorful and extravagant talk by Dr. E. Prabhu, I'm going to bring out some of the simple facts which we already know about these fixed drug combinations. This is my flow of talk. So I'm going to talk some of the basic things like because the fixed drug combination drugs are the need of the hour, like we do have our patients on these, almost every other patients they'll be having these fixed drug combinations. So some of the insight into these fixed drug, because there are a lot of things were happening in the recent past, particularly the government of India has banned some 344 drugs containing the fixed drug combinations. So after that there have been much talk about, much noise about these, the relevance of these FDCs in our clinical practice. So let me go through all these things briefly. So the importance of tight glycemic control. So we all know that it's understood that aggressive glycemic control in type 2 diabetes patients leads not only leads to the improvement of the symptoms, but also it can have some good effect in the chronic complications. So we learned through the elegant study, that is a UKPDS study, so that has shown that every 1% reduction in the HbA1c is converted into the reduced risk of developing all micro and macrovascular complications. So hence, early aggressive and intensive glycemic control has shown to have some long-term effects which are lasting much beyond the duration of the intensive therapy, that we call it as metabolic memory or legacy effect. So thus, it makes sense to try and achieve tight glycemic control as early as possible in the natural history of the disease. So we had some nice lecture by Dr. A.K. Banerjee, and he has given us the algorithm. So let us do some quick recap on the guidelines which can be useful to treat our patients. Patients with the entry-level HbA1c of less than 7.5, they should be initiated on monotherapy. So monotherapy, it can be started with metformin or GLP-1 receptor agonist or SGLT2 inhibitors or DPP4 inhibitors or TZDs or AGI or sulfonylurea. Depends on the patient's preference and other comorbid diseases. If the patient is not getting adequate control after 3 months, they can be switched over to the dual therapy. Or if the entry-level HbA1c is between 7.5 to 9, they should be started on dual therapy. Again, they should be watched. So the metformin with some drugs so either injectable or oral drug that can be combined, and they should be watched along with the lifestyle therapy. In a patient who is a young patient without much comorbidities, who will be are at risk of low risk of developing hypoglycemia, we can aim for a HbA1c of 6.5, and if the patient is having multiple comorbidities or at risk of developing a hypoglycemia, we should aim for a HbA1c more than 6.5. So this is another thing which Dr. A.K. Banerjee has already alluded. So we can choose our therapy depends on the patient's comorbid. They're diabetic with atherosclerotic heart disease, diabetic with the CKD. In diabetics whom we don't want them to go for a hypoglycemia, or patients who wish they do not gain weight, or if it's a cost factor is also a constraint in treating such patients, we do have some drugs. So this is the algorithm we do follow. Most of the guidelines, they reiterate the importance of the combination therapy. So what is this combination therapy? So it's, we know that the diabetes is a condition where multiple pathophysiological factors are acting on so many things, so many defects, as DiFranco has put out, the ominous octet. We do have so many elements that can contribute to the pathophysiology of type 2 diabetes, starting from insulin resistant, beta cell dysfunction, alpha cell dysfunction, GAT, incretin defect, expression of SGLT2 inhibitors, adipose tissue, brain. There are so many things that can interplay in the pathogenesis of type 2 diabetes. Of course, we do not have a magic bullet which can address all the core defects. So that is very unfortunate, and we don't have that. But most of the patients with the drug-naive patients, when they are put on monotherapy, so it tried to address one single core defect. that sometimes inadequate to achieve the glycemic goals, and as a result, the patient is at risk of developing exposure to a prolonged hyperglycemia and, of course, the diabetic complication. There is another elegant study, which is an observational study, one of the largest study, that is called ACHIEVE study, which has shown that like most of our patients are in the HbA1c of globally, I'm talking about globally, so HbA1c of 9.5%. So that is little bit alarming, and there are been some inertia from the doctor side also, like from the physician side also, like when the patient is put on monotherapy, like it takes at least 9 months for the physician to make a combination therapy. So if the patient is already on combination therapy, it takes some time. Say, for example, they say that 14 months for the physician or clinician patient to accept the triple combination therapy. So if they are not under adequate control. So hence, like the combination therapy is the need of the hour, and they should have some complementary mechanisms of action that has become the cornerstone in the treatment of diabetes management nowadays. So the combination is necessary because because of the natural history of the diabetes, like as it goes, like the glycemic control withers away over a period of time, and you put the patient on monotherapy, subsequently combination therapy, sometimes with insulin or with the triple combination therapy. So this is the eventuality we face as the diabetes goes on, as a natural history of the disease itself. So most of our patients, they do have other diseases in addition to the diabetes, like hypertension, dyslipidemia, and other comorbidities that may require some pharmacotherapy. So the patient would be taking multiple combinations of therapy, so that needs to be addressed properly, and it should be individualized. So this eventually creates a pill burden with the most of our diabetic patients. So most of our diabetic patients with hypertensive, like they would be taking at least 3 or 4 drugs for that matter. Like so when the HbA1c, when we try to bring down the HbA1c to a glycemic target, like naturally the pill burden goes up. In addition to that, they would be taking some, in addition to the OHAs, they would be taking drugs for antihypertensives, statins, and some cardioprotective agents also they would be taking. So these patients are taking multiple pills. So this will add to their burden, so it can result in poor adherence in terms of inconvenience of administration or remembrance. So this multiple pill definitely will put the cost of the patients very high. So that is also another thing, and may psychologically may have a negative effect on the patient's course of the illness. To solve this, like we do have the FDCs. We have been using these FDCs in India for more than 2 decades, and there have been some regulations have been put forth since 2010. Like we have got some regulations from DCGI to how ideal FDC should be there. So quick recap on what is this FDC. Like it's a formulation of 2 or more active ingredients combined in a single dosage form, available in certain fixed doses. So it produces, we all know that like it produces a medication adherence that is more important, and improves the patient compliance also. So this FDC concept is not new to the diabetic segment, as we already had these role of these FDCs in other comorbidities, like say for example hypertension, dyslipidemia, and in HIV, cancer, and in some bacterial infection, the antibiotics. So we already learned enough about these fixed drug combinations even before it comes to the diabetic part of it. So there are so many advantages with the fixed dose combinations, as I already alluded, like the convenience. So that is more important, that eventually improves the patient compliance also. The efficacy part of it, because we will be combining 2 drugs like which acts on the different core defects of the diabetes, and they would be complementary in action, in mechanism, in their mechanism of action as well. So they are tolerated, better tolerated, and the safety is less when compared to the individual drug monotherapy that is escalating over a period of time, as we are giving these drugs with a low dose, very low dose. So of course it's packet friendly, and it will definitely improve the patient's psychological aspects of the disease. Like it improves the satisfaction and the happiness, it brings happiness to most of our patients. the adherence is one thing, like as we learned that like any patients with a chronic disease, the adherence to the medication is a big challenge for any practicing physicians. This applies to diabetes as well. Like because like in chronic complex conditions in which polypharmacy is common, the reduction in the pill burden could potentially enhance the adherence, which may be achieved with these FDCs. So there is a study which got published in 2012. It's a retrospective analysis of the outcomes among the patients, which has taken into almost 11,000 diabetic patients. And it was observed that like non-adherence was associated with statistically significant, that is increase in all-cause mortality and all-cause hospitalization. On the contrary, like the conversely, each 25% increase in the adherence to medication was associated with 0.05 decrease in the HbA1c. So that is quite interesting. So we talk about this needs some kind of patient education and effort from the patient as well as from the physician to bring these, promote these adherence to these patients, because that can be converted in good glycemic control as well. So among the patients with the type 2 diabetes using combination therapy, the adherence tends to be greater when compared to the single drug formulations. The tolerability is better, like as we have seen it, we have many combinations. Like you name any combination that is available in India nowadays. Like maybe after this 2016 incident, the combination, the evolution of these new drug combinations have put into restraint. So of course, these drugs are better tolerated, as I shown in the cartoon. Like so, when the sitagliptin and metformin, when given individually, will have more side effect than when it is combined. So that is these drugs are better tolerated. And I would like to take one thing, like because we do have many combinations with the metformin. So metformin with the DPP4 inhibitor, metformin with the SGLT2, metformin with the TZDs, with acarbose, or Oglibos. We do have many combinations in the recent days. But there are some combinations which we have been using for years together, like particularly with sulfonylurea. So this is one combination, that is metformin with sulfonylurea, particularly the glimepiride combination is the most successful combination. So it says that FDCs it accounts for almost 58% of the total pharmaceutical industry revenue. So particularly this metformin glimepiride combination is quite popular, and it's more in volume and value for the pharmaceutical people. So this is I'm going to talk a little bit about this combination, glimepiride with metformin combination. So just to see how these things can gel with each other. So for both the glimepiride and metformin's extended release preparation, the duration of action is almost up to 24 hours. The dosage range can be 1 to 4 milligram for glimepiride and 5,000 to 2,000 in a metformin. And mechanism of action, we all know that glimepiride is a secretagogue and metformin is a sensitizer. So this is a comparative study which elucidate the efficacy, the overall efficacy of the different combinations that is available. Of course, when compared to any other combination, the sulfonylurea with metformin, particularly with the glimepiride with metformin combination, have got a better efficacy in terms of HbA1c control. So this is a study which is again conducted in Indian subjects. The overall population taken was 93 numbers between the HbA1c 7 to 10, and whose fasting blood sugar values were more than 140 were recruited into the study, and they have been studied over a period of 12 weeks, and it is shown that like when compared to the individual drug therapy, this combination therapy has got better efficacy in terms of HbA1c and fasting and postprandial control. So what about the bioequivalence? Again, when compared to the single drugs, the combination drugs have got the almost similar kind of bioequivalence, as well as the bioavailability, which you could see from this cartoon, where the pink one shows the FDC and the blue one shows the individual drugs when they are given as glimepiride and metformin 2/500 combination versus the separate tablets. So there are some triple drug combinations are also available, like glimepiride metformin with PIO or glimepiride metformin with Oglibos. So we do have some endorsement from the API. This is a consensus statement released during July 2017 on the triple drug combination as well. But what is the problem is like, so it's all started in March 2016, when Government of India banned certain fixed drug combination, which included 27 diabetic drugs where the metformin with other drug combinations. So this is a slide which gives you some idea about these combinations. Like when compared to any other part of the globe, like India has got the maximum number of these drug combinations. So almost 25 drug combinations were permitted to use diabetic combination with metformin by DCGI, when compared to UK where 8 combinations are allowed, and in US, like US FDA approved 10 combinations in US. So this has created a little bit kind of the effectiveness. So of late we could see more and more number of inappropriate combinations and ineffective combinations, or rather irrational combinations where came into the market, and it was called for a public notification, and finally the Government of India has banned all these combination of drugs, irrational combination, March 2016, but it got lifted. The ban was lifted in December 2016 again. So this is a critical paper. It's a quite nice paper by Valerie Evans, published in BMJ in 2016. Like it says that the combinations, I'm not talking about the metformin with the DPP-4 or metformin with the recent drugs, the SGLT2 inhibitors, the metformin with the glimepiride combination, or metformin rather sulfonylurea combination. So they have taken some top the metformin with sulfonylurea combinations, and the studies related to these drug combination, which has allowed the DCGI to permit the marketing of these molecules. So it's unfortunate that none of the trials were up to the standard. They have put a standard, they have compared it with a WHO standard with the Indian drug companies, where they are trying to market this after a clinical trial. So it's very unfortunate that none of the trials were on par with the WHO standardization. This is a very sad part of it. And to summary, like we need to know all these they're not only the combination drug, like the irrational drugs, irrational combinations are also coming up. So we need to be aware of such things as well. So in summary, like the FDCs definitely it will improve the therapeutic effectiveness, tolerability, medication compliance, and adherence. Of course, the cost of the therapy is more important in a setup where we practice. So definitely these FDCs, when used early on in the natural history of the disease, in optimal combination, that is more important, and dosage, offer a practical means of improving therapeutic outcomes in diabetes. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar, for your excellent presentation. So may I ask question from the audience? If there is any question for Dr. Chandrasekhar, please.
I think it is an excellent presentation and a topic which is close to our heart.
Yes.
Because as clinicians, we have been using these combinations quite often. But when we go to the actual guidelines, as for example, latest guideline, we see that glimepiride and sulfonylurea has come down. Status has much come down, except in some financially compromised position. Otherwise, always they are talking of this sort of SGLT2, DPP-4, etc.
Yes, sir.
So I think in that way, your talk is excellent, because we have been using all of our system. The problem is that sometimes many of our patients, we see that they cannot tolerate metformin, or there is some problem, hypoglycemia. So about certain percentage, I can quote the percentage, there is some problem of toleration, and some side effects also become more with glimepiride. So we have found, particularly elderly diabetics, we have got a lot of these problems. I think otherwise, these combinations are quite helpful in our routine clinical practice. But the problem is that, again, the recommendation I tell you, sulfonylurea, these combinations, again, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, we always see this SGLT2 and GLP-1, etc., they are coming back.
Yes, I do fully agree with your statement. Like, so we do have more data on these FDCs, particularly with relevant to the recent drugs, DPP-4 inhibitor or SGLT2 inhibitor. But what about the drugs, the time-tested drug which we have been using it? That's why I brought the thing with metformin, with sulfonylurea. Of course, we do have, as you already said, like we do have many issues, particularly in a vulnerable population when we use this fixed drug combination, because sometimes like the adverse effects of one agent like could compromise the efficacy of the other agent used, or we may find it difficult to up-titrate or down-regulate these drugs. Like that is one big problem with this kind of thing. So
I think another point also, which is not discussed, as for example, SGLT2 combinations. There's
yes,
some this glucagon effect. I think that has added something.
Yeah, yes, so it does have some benefit. It's complementary to each other. Like so that's why, because we have, I think in Chennai, like where I come from, at least weekly thrice we listen to these combination drug and recent drugs. I hope most of you would have listened to all this kind of thing. So that's why I just trying to put something about these things. But of course the pioglitazone also, like pioglitazone, the recommended dose is 15 milligram TDS. That is the thing. But we do use lot of these combination drug with 7.5. So that has made these research workers to go back and see why in India they have been using 7.5 when there is no recommendation or data to say that pioglitazone 7.5 is no longer is in clinical use. But in India they do have some many combinations. So this has raised many issues, and with that, after that, like it has triggered a cascade of events which has led to the DCGI to ban some drugs.
Excuse me. What is your sorry? What's your take on triple drug fixed dose combinations and dual drug fixed dose combinations? Where do you see how they stand? Do the triple drugs really would stand the test of time?
Yes, sir. Like that's why, like this, I think, like so we have been using this dual combination. When the HbA1c is 7.5, we can use this thing. Like of course, any patients with uncontrolled hyperglycemia, maybe HbA1c of more than 9 and above, or 9.5. If they are not uncontrolled with a dual drug, like we can switch over to the triple drug combination. Depends on the patients. We need to choose our patients.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's what we are doing. But what do you see as the future of triple?
Yeah, future, like see, the triple drug combinations were not endorsed in many countries. Like so, in US there is no triple drug combinations. In most of the Europe countries, they do not have a triple drug combination. But we do have these triple drug combination, particularly after this 2016 incident. That was, if you could see that 2017 July, there was a consensus published in Journal of Physicians of India, JAPI. So it says that like the triple drug combinations has got a value, like so they coined a term glycemic pentad. Okay, we heard of glycemic triad, they coined the term glycemic pentad, and trying to promote these triple drug combinations. Of course, it could be a pharma-driven thing. Ultimately, the treating physician has to decide on these things, whether to use their triple drug combinations, on whom, how, and the dosage.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar.